They, the Judaism's first century, they weren't keeping Torah to become saved. They thought that they were saved when they were Jewish, when they were born. So they were born with their salvation status. No. Instead, Torah observance came into maintenance existing membership that they gained at birth or at conversion. So Torah observance was the second step and that was still self-effort, don't get me wrong. And it was still legalism, and it's still misguided. It's still wrong. God doesn't automatically count you as continuing on a salvation tract as long as you keep the Torah, right? The Torah just isn't that type of salvific tool. It neither initiates salvation nor does it maintain salvation. It doesn't work either way. It's a sanctification tool, right, by comparison to salvation. But it's important for us as we're studying through Paul to not get confused of the particular nationalistic perspective that the Judaisms were wielding. Here's what I say as in the final paragraph in my commentary. Once again, we must remind ourselves that even though circumcision was historically misused and is misapplied as Jewish identity, there's no reason for us to continue on such a misunderstanding today in today's 21st century religious discussions, particularly in Gentile Christianity. Nor is there any reason for the emerging Torah communities to shrink back from the Torah that God has clearly given for us to obey, provided we maintain our primary identity. And what is that? Not necessarily as Jewish or Gentile, as important as those are, right? We don't want to minimize Jewish or Gentile identity in Messiah. Those are important, but they're not our primary identity. What is our primary identity in the church, in the body of Messiah? Our primary identity is that of one firmly grounded in Mashiach, as Messiah, as believers. That's our primary identity. The Jewish or Gentile becomes secondary to that primary. Okay, having established now the background to works of the law, let's look at my commentary. I'll see how much of this I want to read. Galatians chapter 3. I start by quoting verses 2 and 3 all over again. Paul says, let me ask you this. Did you receive the Spirit by works of the law, that is, by this initiation program of getting in and staying in, or by hearing with faith, which of course is the accurate? Notice there's two programs that are opposed to one another, and they're challenging one another. There's the works of the law on the one hand, and there's the reception of the Spirit or hearing with faith on the other hand. So works of law is one contest, hearing with faith is the other contest, the other choice, and the Galatian Gentiles are at the crossroads of decision. Which doorway are we going to embark on, or embark through? Or which doorway are we going to walk through? Are we going to walk through the doorway of conversion / works of the law / Jewish identity / covenantal nomism / Jewish nationalism and all of that, i.e. what today Christians would call legalism or merit theology or something to that effect, works righteousness? So that's door number one. Or are we Gentile Galatians going to go through door number 2 that Paul's explaining to us, which is hearing with faith, which of course is the doorway known as Messiah. All right, so that's the contest. I go on to talk about how that this is a very theologically heated part of Paul's book. I don't want to read through all that right now. Let's read some of this though. Again, Shaul returns to his irony with a rhetorical question about the origins of the giving of the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, among the Galatian believers. Since this study is entitled Shavu'ot, the Spirit and the Shavuot, the Spirit and the Law. Shavuot, Spirit and the Law. I think it's something like that. Then it's for that reason that we're having this discussion about the Holy Spirit, because Pentecost, that season is upon us, and Pentecost is the recognition according to Rabbinic Judaism, of the celebration of the giving of the Torah. So notice the overlapping things. In Jewish circles, they're celebrating the giving of the Torah, and in Christian circles, at least it should be, they're celebrating the giving of the Spirit. So notice the two overlapping primary themes, the Spirit and the law. Shaul surely knows firsthand from whence the Spirit flows from God to an individual. So it's a rhetorical question. However, in this portion of his letter, he's attempting to shock the readers back into some semblance of biblical reality. Having begun with the truth of Yeshua's atoning death, how could they possibly be considering going back on such a revelation? To the apostles, such a notion was ludicrously untenable, right? He knows where they started from. Why are they wavering? Again, knowing that among the Judaisms of Paul's day that the Greek word for law, nomos, could include a reference to the oral traditions, and more specifically to halakha that governed proselyte conversion, helps us to understand Paul to be challenging the validity of these ethnically restricted views of Torah among genuine covenant members. Surely lasting covenant membership is not acquired by human effort, viz. Works of the law or legalism or something like that, but by placing one's trust in the ultimate Son of the covenant, Yeshua himself, right? Paul knows that. So I go on to say in my commentary, our opening question might be better phrased as, quote, so I would like to learn just one thing from you. Did you receive the Spirit by becoming proselytes? That's the works of the law phrase, ergo namu. By becoming proselytes or by believing what you heard, namely the word about Messiah. So understanding how I'm putting back into context this phrase works of law, I'm turning it not into works righteousness, such as merit theology, the wooden keeping of Torah. Rather, the specific work that was in view was the proselyte conversion ceremony for Gentiles seeking Jewish legitimacy in Paul's day.